Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Thursday. This is Seattle Now. Early in the pandemic, Zillow soared. But recently, the company's effort to flip houses flopped, and 2,000 people are going to lose their jobs. Business Insider's James Rodriguez will tell us what's going on at Zillow in a minute. But first, let's get you caught up. No big changes in the big Seattle races after yesterday's batch of election returns. After about another 20,000 votes were counted, Bruce Harrell, Ann Davison, and Sarah Nelson are all holding on to their leads in the races for mayor, city attorney, and city council. Incumbent City Council member Teresa Mosqueda added to her lead. Meanwhile, King County Executive Dow Constantine looks to be headed for a fourth term. And at least one seat on the Port of Seattle Commission is coming down to the wire, with incumbent Peter Steinbrück now trailing Toshiko Grace Hasegawa by just a few hundred votes. Former SPD Chief Carmen Best's name is popping up on an interesting list. The New York Post reported yesterday that Best is rumored to be on the short list of finalists to lead the NYPD. Mayor-elect Eric Adams has pledged to hire the first woman to lead the department. The Post cites an anonymous source who says Best is seen as a cop's cop who's liked by Fox News and MSNBC viewers. And a COVID vaccine for younger kids is already being distributed in Washington, but health officials warn supply will be limited for the next 2 weeks. UW Medicine ran a clinic in Shoreline yesterday after receiving 5,700 doses earlier this week. Families wanting the vaccine for their children must call first to be put on a wait list to get an appointment. More than 180,000 children in King County are newly eligible for the vaccine.
In the real estate report, we are focusing in on the action playing out at Zillow as shares absolutely get shellacked, and I'm not overusing that term today.
Zillow's stock took a beating Wednesday after the company said it would stop trying to flip homes and lay off 25% of its workforce. James Rodriguez has been covering Zillow for Business Insider, and it turns out the Seattle-based company was paying more for houses than they were worth.
I talked to one realtor in Denver who was saying that he had advised his clients that they could probably sell their house for around $650,000, but they might as well just check with Zillow beforehand to see kind of what Zillow could come in and offer. And Zillow actually offered $750,000. Then Zillow turns around less than 2 weeks later and relists the home for $800,000. This was kind of late summer. Fast forward a few months, the home is under contract now, but the last listing price shown is about $670,000. So that's a big drop, much less than they paid. And so if that's happening around the country, which it sounds like, everything that we've looked at shows that it has been, that's a big issue.
James, why would a company that routinely estimates the prices of homes overpay?
There are a few possible explanations. One that I've heard speculated by professors and market analysts that I've talked to is that they were trying to grow so aggressively. I mean, this business really only works if you have scale, if you're buying thousands or tens of thousands of homes. And so maybe they were trying to grow too aggressively and ended up overpaying for homes. Publicly, they've expressed that the market has been volatile, and that's why it's been really hard to predict home prices, and that's how they ended up overpaying. It's difficult to say kind of what went wrong within their algorithm, but clearly there was something happening that they were just consistently overpaying.
Okay, let's continue talking about what happens, because now the company has this property. In some cases, it has paid more than the property is worth to obtain it. How was Zillow's house flipping model supposed to work?
So typically what iBuyers do is they come in and they buy a home for a little bit below the market value because sellers are willing to accept that lower price as basically a convenience fee. They're getting in and out way quicker than it normally would take to sell a home. And so then Zillow turns around, completes those repairs and then sells it for a higher price. And, if they're doing this on a big scale, that could lead to really high profits. And, some people have thought that this could be kind of the future of real estate, that this could be a really big business. The CEO, Rich Barton, has said that this could eventually bring in $20 billion a year in revenue for the company potentially. So there was a lot of potential here.
Yeah, certainly. Some people speculated, James, that Zillow was trying to manipulate the market by buying all these houses and flipping them.
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of, there's not a lot of great empirical evidence to show that. You know, I've talked to a couple of professors about that, and they've agreed that although it's not impossible, it does seem unlikely. For one, you know, iBuyers, while the segment has been growing, it's still a relatively small segment. Last quarter, they accounted for about 1% of all home sales in the U.S. So, you know, they kind of don't have that scale to really effectively manipulate the market. And then it's kind of the question of what is the end game there? You know, you're raising home prices. You still have to turn around and buy more homes and conceivably flip them. And so I think that does speak a lot to just the skepticism that, you know, normal people have about these big companies like Zillow getting involved in the housing market in this way, buying up homes, all cash. I think at a time when there's, you know, so many people are having a hard time buying a home, there's this lack of inventory. I think that does speak to just this general level of cynicism surrounding these big companies coming in and flipping homes.
There's another side to this. There are buyers who did very well on their homes through this process. And hot take, what does this mean for my Zestimate? What should I think about the other things that Zillow is trying to predict about my home?
That's a good question. I mean, the Zestimate itself is basically built off of this algorithm looking at comparable sales in the area among lots of other factors. And so, you know, if Zillow itself isn't able to use its algorithms to correctly price homes for its own business as it tries to make a profit, I think that does raise a lot of questions around, you know, elements like the Zestimate and the accuracy of that. You know, that's been disputed in the past. You know, home buyers have complained about Zillow and the Zestimates undervaluing their homes. I mean, it's really supposed to, you know, it kind of be a starting point for people to start thinking about price of their homes. But, you know, Zillow and its iBuying segment, Zillow offers, you know, they've been using Zestimates in some cases as an initial all cash offer. And so, you know, if that algorithm isn't working properly, I think that does raise questions about kind of just their overall business when it comes to valuing homes.
The pandemic seems to have had a positive effect on the company. You know, Zillow's stock tripled in 2020. What does this news mean for the company?
So, as you mentioned, they're laying off a quarter of their workforce. That's a really significant number, and it's not like this was just some kind of pie in the sky thing that they were chasing. This was a significant part of their company, and they really believed that iBuying could be really take this company into the future. And so, you know, the good thing is Zillow still has that, for Zillow at least, you know, Zillow still has that name recognition. They still have a strong brand, and there are lots of other ways that they believe that they can reach consumers and kind of make that home buying and selling process easier. And I think that's kind of the next step for them, is figuring out how exactly they can do that as they pivot away from this iBuying model.
Ultimately, James, this did not work out for the company. What do you think went wrong?
That's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves right now and asking the company right now. You know, it's possible that something was going on with their algorithm that basically made it so that they were consistently overvaluing homes. Maybe they were trying to expand too aggressively and ended up going and, you know, paying too much or buying up homes. You know, this kind of model really works when you're looking at these cookie cutter homes that are really similar, and you have all this data that can show you what other homes might be worth. Maybe they were going into different, you know, types of homes and purchasing them and just, you know, overvaluing them. So our team at Insider, we looked through all of the listings that Zillow offers has in its 5 biggest markets, and we found that about 64% of those homes were listed for less than the company had originally paid for them. You know, in Phoenix, it was as high as 93%. That's a really staggering figure. I mean, I think that shows kind of the extent of their losses. And it turns out that that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg. Bloomberg had a report that the company's trying to sell off about 7,000 homes for $2.8 billion. I think that really speaks to the challenges that the company has run up against, and somehow they have just been, overvaluing homes in a way that has made it impossible for the company to turn around and turn a profit. And so they've decided instead to just ditch this part of the business entirely.
Okay, you did your analysis. What are you looking for as this story unfolds?
I think the big question is, what is the future of iBuying at this point? Zillow came in, they have all this data. It's a big company, and they swung and missed. And, people have really been looking at iBuying as the potential future of real estate, as a segment that could grow significantly in the future. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of companies that still believe that this can work. They're still in this business of buying and selling homes for a profit. And I think all eyes will be on those companies moving forward, companies like OfferPad, Opendoor, Redfin. How do those companies continue to perform, and what will that say about the way that we buy and sell homes in the future?
Yeah. James Rodriguez is a reporter at Business Insider. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, James.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening today. Caroline Chamberlain Gomez produced today's show. Our production team is Jenny Cecil Moore, Diana Opong, Clare McGrane, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. I'm Patricia Murphy.